Good evening and welcome everyone. Right, I'll start with item 1, apologies for absence and notification of the substitute members. Can I start by asking the Democratic Services Officer if there are any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies received from Councillor Adrian Cartwright, Councillor Rebecca Breese and Councillor Caroline Phillips. Councillor Adrian Cartwright is substituted by Councillor Nigel Beryl. And just to update the committee on some changes, Councillors Gaskell and Blythe are no longer on the committee, and Councillor Purser has been replaced by Councillor Carley, who is present with us tonight. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Item 2, declarations of interest. Do any members of the committee have any declarations of interest in any of the items under consideration at this meeting?
I'd like to declare an interest in item number 6, 130 Watling Street, East Towcester. I've already voted on it as a member of Towcester Town Council.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I have a declaration of interest in item 8 as the ward councillor, and I will withdraw from the meeting and speak on it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item 3, minutes. Do we confirm the minutes of the meeting of the committee held on the 5th of June 2025 as a correct record? Yes, yep, okay, thank you. Item 4, Chair's announcements. We have a large agenda to get through tonight, so if I could ask all members and speakers to stick to material planning issues only. This will ensure that the smooth running of the meeting and enable us to hear all applications in a timely way. Members of the public are permitted to film, broadcast and report on a meeting, subject to the efficient running of the meeting not being affected. Only those people who are registered in line with the committee's speaking procedure may address the committee. Members of the public are requested not to call out during the committee's discussions on any item. Anybody who repeatedly disrupts the meeting may be asked to leave. All speakers will have 3 minutes in which to make their statements, except where Chair's discretion has been applied, and are asked to remain seated after they have addressed the committee to answer any questions the committee may have. This meeting is being webcast on the Council's corporate YouTube channel. Therefore, when speaking, please speak clearly and concisely into the microphone at all times. There are no planned fire drills, so if the alarm does sound, evacuation instructions will be given by Democratic Services. Please ensure that any devices are switched off or onto silent mode. For the benefit of the public watching remotely, I will now introduce the top table, starting at my furthest right.
Good afternoon. My name is Sian Webb. I'm Principal Lawyer for Planning and Highways. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Richard Woods, Democratic Services Officer for the Council.
I am Councillor John East, Councillor for Dallington Ward Spencer and Chair of the committee.
Nathan Loud, Development Manager, Team Leader for the South Area.
Jonathan Moore, Senior Planning Officer.
Eamon McDowell, Development Management Team Leader, North Area. I read that well, didn't I?
Thank you. Okay, now on to item 5, proposed pre-committee site visits. For any items requiring a site visit that are due to be heard at the 7th of August meeting of the committee, such visits will be held at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, the 5th of August, and the details will be circulated by Democratic Services in due course. Item 6, 130 Watling Street, East Towcester. I will now hand over to the case officer, Nathan Loud, who will begin the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So the application relates to 130 Watling Street, Towcester, and it seeks a change of use of a bank to a bar at the ground floor and part first floor, including the insertion of a new door at the front elevation, reinstatement of doors to courtyard and internal alterations. The application is before committee at the request of former Councillor Clubley. The application is situated along the main road through the centre of Towcester and is a Grade 2 listed building located in the Towcester Conservation Area. This is a plan just showing the extent of the conservation area. The property was previously a bank and is situated between two other commercial establishments, an existing restaurant and hair salon. This is plan just showing the existing alterations and the existing floor plan, as you can see currently. So the proposed alteration seeks the insertion of a new door in the front elevation, as shown on this plan. This will be to allow for deliveries and waste collection. Also, proposal seeks a reinstatement of doors to the rear courtyard and internal alterations. There is also an accompanying listed building consent application relating to the internal and external alterations. This application is delegated to officers to determine. The Council's Heritage team have raised no objections to the external and internal alterations, with full external details required by condition 13. As you can see from this plan, it shows the proposed floor plans. So the ground floor area will be used as the bar area, with the first floor being used for offices, restrooms and storage. Condition 5 seeks to control the use of the first floor. The floor plans show the location of the delivery storage area, which you can see where my cursor is there, which is at the front of the property, and access to the bin storage area is through the alley. Deliveries and bin collections will be undertaken to the front of the property. The rear access to the courtyard area, you can see there's a door there. This will be used for emergency purposes only. These are just a few photos of the property currently, and just some internal photos of what it looks like at present. And this is the alleyway. So as set out within the agenda, the application seeks to reuse a vacant unit within the town centre, bringing economic benefits to the locality and bringing a historical asset back into use. Concerns have been raised by residents relating to noise associated with the proposed use. However, officers consider, in consultation with environmental health, that conditions 4 through to 8 will ensure that the level of noise associated with this activity can be controlled to an acceptable level, such that it will not have an adverse impact upon neighbouring properties. Within the updates, there is a slight amendment to condition 6. It just seeks to include the word "and," as you can see highlighted there. So the recommendation is for approval, subject to 2 conditions and the amendment to condition 6. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I now invite questions from the committee to the officers. Any questions? No. Okay. Okay, so now we'll move to public speaking in the following order. Colin Clayson, a local business owner. Yeah, just sit there. Yep, make sure you're speaking to the microphone. Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and councillors. My name is Colin Clayson, and I am the MD of Clayson Country Homes, who built the surrounding award-winning Moat Lane regeneration scheme, which is now an established residential community. I'm speaking on behalf of various Moat Lane residents that I've sold properties to and who have contacted me to help them to object to this application, which will blight the peaceful residential environment they enjoy. On that basis, I would like to strongly object to this planning application before you. South Northampton Council were one of the key agents for change in the promoting the Moat Lane regeneration. Surely it cannot be appropriate for the same local authority who granted planning permission as they did for residential use to then allow an application of this nature to be approved in such close proximity to what has now become a well-established residential community. The principle of putting a bar use with noise generated from outside space in this location is completely unacceptable and totally incongruous with its existing quiet environment. The rear courtyard of this proposal is only 15 metres away from 3 4-bed family houses on Moat Lane with children residing. This is particularly pertinent when you think that noise from external space could reach as high as 100 decibels when the legal planning limit for noise in close proximity to residential uses should be a maximum of 55 decibels, which in itself is still very loud. This proposal is causing much upset to the adjacent residents and would create long-term harm to the environment their homes are located in. It would be completely unjust to these residents to take away the peaceful existence they currently enjoy. This proposal will also prejudice the flats and shops in Witton's Lane. In this mixed-use scheme of residential and commercial uses, we have avoided letting to any noisy or antisocial classes, such as this proposal, to protect the integrity of the largely residential area. The increased noise they will be subjected to and the potential antisocial behaviour this proposal will create are totally unacceptable. Also, my solicitor has confirmed to me that this building has no legal rear access over our retained land and therefore cannot achieve a fire escape. This in turn would create a major safety issue in cases of emergency. I object to this proposal in the strongest terms and thank you for considering my comments.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Councillor Smith.
Thank you, and thank you for your comments. I'm just picking up on the fact that the environmental officer has commented that this is located on Towcester High Street near 2 other what it states licensed premises.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what your view is on how those impact on residential amenity and whether you consider this to be something different or outside of that, or how your concerns relate to the use of other licensed premises in the area.
Okay, well, quite a broad question, but I'll answer it in completeness. When I was designing the Moat Lane regeneration, there was an existing pub, which is the Brave Old Oak, farther down there, and they had an outdoor space at the back, and it's been there 200 years or whatever. Because of that, I only built 2-bedroom houses to the rear of the pub. Now, at this end, where we're talking about now, the situation is there's a restaurant, been there many years, and the shops that are there are not pubs, there's a restaurant. And so when the people who bought their homes, and these are 4-bed family homes, not 2-bed, 4-bed family homes, they bought with the knowledge there was a restaurant. So they accepted that, or if they didn't want to buy it, if somebody didn't like the idea of a restaurant, then they wouldn't buy. So the designs of the 4-bed family homes very much fitted what was there at the time. Now, it's a very big step from a bank to a pub with an outdoor drinking space, which from the back of the problem is the back, not the front. The problem with the back is that your 4-bed family homes with bedrooms facing that way, 4-bed, children there, and the distance between, excuse me, the distance between the back of these properties and the pub is only from here to the back of this room. That's all it is. And that's an outdoor space. So you imagine the people who have bought these houses, 3 of mine, 1 of an existing, in good faith, they knew this was a quiet spot. You can go over there now, it's really peaceful and quiet. There's no pub noise, there's no noise at all. So these people bought their houses in good faith that they knew what they're buying in a redeveloped area that's properly planned, and then to come along and think to put a pub in the back of that, this close to 3 family houses with children, how is that right? That pub, that outdoor space that's only the length of it from me to that back wall can have people drinking in there till 12:30 at night when they're trying to get the children to bed and try to get to bed themselves. 12:30 at night at the weekends. Now, how is that right? This close. And I ask this one question. And this is an essential question. If any of you here were sitting with this proposal in front of you that somebody said, 15 metres from the back of your family home, we're going to open a pub with an outdoor space. That is how these people feel. That is how everybody should feel who's looking at this proposal, because it's fundamentally wrong that you can put that close to residential houses and not even flats, not even starter homes, 4-bed family homes. The people who have asked me to come and speak and explain everything are very, very distraught. It's ruining their lives. Why should they have that when we've made a big effort? This is an award-winning regeneration
Can we just
scheme.
stick to answering the question, please? Thank
Sorry.
you.
Have I answered your question? Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any more questions from anyone? Okay, thank you, Mr. Clayson.
Thank you. Very much.
Our next call on our next speakers, Jenny Hunt and Andrew Chester, on behalf of the applicants. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members of the Planning Committee. My name's Andrew Chester of AC Design and Planning. I was the agent on behalf of the applicant JHA Commercial Limited. Proposals seek to change the use of the former Lloyd Bank premises at 130 Watling Street, East Towcester, to a cocktail lounge at ground and part first floor. The building in question is a late 18th century Grade 2 listed property in the Towcester Conservation Area. Separate listed building consent application has also been submitted.
Can you speak into the microphone, please?
Yeah,
thank you.
Apologies. The intended use of the building is a cocktail lounge that will provide a unique and alternative venue within Towcester High Street to complement the well-established and historic pubs nearby. The licensee of the new business that is to be known as The Vault has significant experience of the area, having successfully managed the Watling Street Village pub on the western side of the Market Square for a number of years. Building works involve minimal internal and external alterations, include the insertion of a new door to the front elevation, reinstatement of doors located on the rear elevation to the courtyard, and minor internal alterations to provide a bar area and toilet facilities at ground floor. Like the majority of premises within the High Street and Market Square, the site has no dedicated parking. There is ample public parking nearby, with car parks located off the Northampton Road, Richmond Road, and on the Market Square itself. The proposal is not expected to adversely affect highway safety or operation due to its central location and existing infrastructure. Support for the proposals during the consultation period was provided by WNC's Economic Development Team, the Planning Policy, Environmental Protection and Heritage and Conservation teams all stated the proposals would be acceptable, subject to the use of appropriate conditions. The main concern raised during determination relate to noise and disturbance for nearby residents. The Council's Environmental Health Officer recommended conditions to restrict live or background music in the courtyard, limit hours of operation and require a noise management plan. During the premises licensing hearing, the proposed tenant made considerable concessions in an attempt to ease the concerns of local residents and the licensing committee. The premises license was granted with similar restrictions to those recommended by Environmental Health and to be added as a condition by the Planning Department. The licensee will draft a noise management plan to satisfy the condition. All staff will be fully briefed to ensure compliance at all times. During research into the planning history of the site, it was discovered that a bin space had been allocated to the property within the car parking area to the rear of the courtyard. However, the applicant has followed the consultee recommendations. All waste collections as well as stock deliveries are to occur at the front and not the rear of the venue to minimise disturbance to the neighbouring properties. Another issue raised was that of the fire escape to the rear courtyard. The applicant has suggested removing the existing gate, installing a solid aluminium replacement with an emergency push bar from the courtyard side only, and no method of opening the gate from the car park side. In conclusion, it's felt the proposal is acceptable, subject to conditions addressing noise, hours of operations and waste management. The impact on the listed building and conservation area is limited and not considered harmful. Amenity impacts on neighbours are mitigated through licensing and planning conditions. The proposal is not expected to cause unacceptable harm.
Thank you. Right, so are there any questions from the committee? Councillor Carley.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to ask in relation to Mr. Clayson's indication.
Yeah.
Did you guys consult with the residents in terms of when this was going to be put in place? And
Yeah, the submission was made, and following the number of objections that were raised during determination, the proposed tenant has obviously worked with the environmental protection and the licensing to reduce the proposed opening hours. The courtyard will not be in use. The bifold doors, proposed bifold doors, will be shut at 11 o'clock in the evenings during the week and 11:30 at weekends. There will be no live music throughout the venue at all, and any sort of recorded music will be at background levels only.
sorry, may I come back?
Yeah.
I just want to personally ask, why so close to family homes, if possible? If you could answer that.
Sorry, I did
Why would the pub be so close to family homes? I mean, if there is complaints and, you know, obviously listening to what has been
Yeah,
complained
indeed.
about.
Well, I mean, the location of the property is, you know, in the high street of Towcester. There are numerous properties and facilities throughout the high street. You know, the application really seeks to provide a cocktail, an alternative. It's not a pub in the traditional sense of being a pub. The limited capacity of the venue will also mean, I mean, the size of the courtyard, the capacity will be limited to 30 people at maximum, I imagine. And that will be closed at 11 o'clock, say, during the week, and 11:30 at weekends. Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? Okay, thank you, Mr. Chester.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so at this point, I'd like to ask the officers, are there any points that you'd like to come back on?
No, there isn't.
Oh, sorry, you said. Oh, okay. My apologies. Sorry.
I think I need to. What do I do? Oh, it does
That's
work.
it.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay. Right. Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. I'm Jenny Hunter, and together with my husband, David, we bought the bank. Maybe we shouldn't have. We have a passion for restoring empty buildings, and today we seek your support in breathing new life into the vacant Lloyds Bank on Towcester's historic High Street by granting permission for a small, locally run cocktail lounge. That is what the permission is asking for. Towcester's High Street has always been a blend of homes and commerce from Roman times through the Georgian era when our building was built. Number 130 has been empty since 2021 and risks decay, negatively impacting the area's economy and safety. While some may wish the bank to return, retail has shifted and hospitality is one of the few viable uses for this space. It took a year and we chose our tenant very carefully, trying to avoid harming existing local businesses. Rather than compete by opening yet another restaurant, we sought a complementary offer. This is also not a pub or a sports bar, but a small, mixed-age, dog-friendly space for the community to gather, perhaps for a drink before or after dinner. Addressing concerns, noise. The lounge will be on the ground floor with no impact on upper floors. We're also considerably reducing mechanical noise. Courtyard, it's very small, 5.75 metres, approximately the size of 2 to 3 parking bays. Once you have furniture in there, there's not going to be a large crowd. 22 metres approximately away from the nearest Moat Lane development residential building, that's 2 double-decker buses end on end. Music will be kept to background levels as agreed with the licensing committee. Deliveries and bins servicing will occur via the high street with minimal deliveries and waste. Any business in our location would require waste disposal. Parking, well, there's plenty of free parking available nearby. The benefits are clear. Active use prevents decay and enhances safety. Heritage restoration, economic boost, it creates jobs, supports local suppliers, increasing evening footfall, promotes safety. The listed building receives much care and restoration, respecting its conservation area status. Local trades are ready to start work. Addressing the decline of the high street that will bring increased footfall to benefit other businesses. But time is of the essence. Our tenant is ready to commit funds, and further delay could result in losing this opportunity, having already been delayed well past the original determination date of the 28th of May. The high streets in general are in decline, and it's a key issue. And we ask for your support to do something about Towcester's High Street, supporting heritage and economic vitality. I've got one more second. There's lots of support in Facebook groups online. But obviously that doesn't count for planning. Thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jenny. Any questions from the committee? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. Just two. One is, what is the maximum occupancy of the property in terms of customers? And the second is, given how small the courtyard is, I'm a little puzzled. Obviously, it's not the case anymore, but there were proposals for live music. I understand that's not going ahead, but that would seem a difficult thing to achieve in such a small space. And also, given it's such a small space, is there a need for the courtyard to be utilised at all?
Oh, you might have to remind me of all those different points as we go. Is there a need for the courtyard to be utilised? Well, I'm sure we, unfortunately, will remember COVID. There are times that outdoor space is definitely required, and it's an attraction. Commercial businesses have to fight with each other for customers, and customers in the sunshine would like to sit outside. But they don't have to be particularly noisy. Sorry, could you remind me the other ones?
What was the maximum occupancy of the property in terms of custom?
I'm not actually sure because I didn't apply for the licence, my tenant did. Maybe someone can help me. $40 indoor, 20 outdoor. And did you have another question? Okay.
Any further questions from the committee? No, okay. Thank you.
Can I go?
Yes, thank you, Jenny. Okay, so at this point now, I'll ask the officers if there are any points they wish to come back on.
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so at this point now, we move to the committee to debate the application. Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I've taken on board all the points that are made, and I can see the benefit economically in the arguments made for the use of this property. However, I do have concerns about the change of use after the event when residential properties are built where there are pre-existing heavy commercial uses. I can understand more what happens when there is in terms of them having chosen where they live. However, I do take on board the arguments made about the other properties not being of a similar nature to this. I recognise this is being a cocktail bar, not a pub. However, up to 60 people could still be quite a considerable amount of coming and going and disturbance. And my instinct would be to refuse on the grounds of residential amenity for pre-existing properties and neighbours.
Councillor Frost.
Thank you. Yeah, I have an alternative opinion. I have maximum sympathy, as I'm sure we all do, for the people who live nearby, who are concerned about their peace and quiet. But Towcester is a town. I've just checked, 11,500 people, and they bought their homes that are feet away from the centre of that town, and like I said, whilst I have sympathy, I think buying a home that's so close to the centre of a town and expecting lifelong peace and tranquility was anyway. I think a curious thing to do in that respect. And similarly, so I do have sympathy for them, and I also have but I also have sympathy for the other people in Towcester who want their town to prosper and thrive. But in terms of planning, it is within planning rules. There's a sort of an amenity argument, I suppose, that's been put forward by the town council. I'd be so if it went to appeal, the inspectorate would look at the things on balance and see is it compatible with more rules than it's against. And as far as I can see, it's in keeping with far more rules than it's against. So on that basis, I'd be happy to take officers' advice. I just wonder what others' views are.
Okay, any more in the committee? Okay, so are you willing to move to a proposal? Yep. Okay. And seconding? Yep. Okay. Okay, so at this point, proposal is made, so arising from debate, this must be proposed and seconded, which we have, and we can move to a vote now.
Thank you, Chair. Just to summarise the proposal from Councillor Frost, as seconded by Councillor Clark, that the committee would approve the application in accordance with the case officer's recommendation. Obviously, we have the typographical amendment to condition 6, which is set out in the committee updates that would form part of that proposal. But over to you, Chair, to move the vote.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we now move to a vote on the motion. Those in favour? And those against? Okay, so the motion is carried. Thank you. Item 7, 62 Kent Road, South Northampton. I will now hand over to Case Officer Jonathan Moore to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. This is a planning application for conversion of existing dwelling to a children's care home under Class C2 of the Use Class Order at 62 Kent Road, South Northampton. Paragraphs 2.1 to 2.5 of the report set out the nature of the proposal in terms of the type of care provided. I would also draw members' attention to the addendum in front of them, which suggests a summary of one additional representation provided in the last week by a member of the public or local resident. The site location plan in front of you shows the position of the property in the area. It is an established residential location, semi-detached property, many semi-detached properties surrounding the site, close to the bend in the road, Kent Road. This is an aerial view taken from Google Images, again showing the context in the residential setting residential properties both to the rear and also opposite to the front. This is a block plan which shows the site, shows the parking, 2 existing parking spaces in the driveway. The property also has the benefit of a garage at the rear of the property to the side. This is existing floor plans. Existing property is a 4-bedroom property with a kitchen, diner, and living room at ground floor, and 4 bedrooms above in the first floor and the second floor. The proposed floor plans are the same with no changes. It would remain a 4-bedroom property. This shows the site in the context of the street, cars parking on the road, shows the front elevation of the property. You can see the driveway, the side. Again, this is taken further looking on the street, showing the semi-detached properties. This is looking up, heading north, further up the street scene, kind of a view of the wider area. And the last photograph shows looking down Kent Road South. Again, you can see the cars parked in the street as well. The proposal is recommended for approval tonight. There's 5 conditions suggested in the report. Highways are not objecting, Environmental Health have not objected, and the police have not objected. And that, as I say a minute ago, the application is recommended for approval. There have been 36 objections, been a lot of neighbour interest in this application, and it's been referred to committee by former Councillor Anna Keane. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite questions from the committee to the officers. Are there any questions? No. Okay. We'll now move on to public speaking in the following order. So we have Luke Gervin, spokesman on behalf of a number of local residents, and he shall have 6 minutes in total. Yes, yeah, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just for the benefit of everybody here as to why Mr. Gervin has got 6 minutes. Obviously, Mr. Gervin is a spokesperson on behalf of all local residents. So we have provision in our constitution for up to 2 local residents. So Mr. Gervin will be using all of the time for that. And at the Chair's discretion, we've permitted another speaker who is the adjoining neighbour. So it's important to have those views heard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Ready to go?
Start when you're ready.
Opinion is not fact. Remember that. The following objections are based on the material planning considerations on this case and are evidence-backed and data-driven. Approving the application in light of these would be an abomination. Traffic and highway issues. Data from Duston Parish Council's vehicle-activated speed sign reports over 110,000 road uses on Kent Road South per month. Multiply that by 2 for the obvious fact that people come back the way they came. That's over 220,000 uses per month. This is not a quiet street. This is a very busy road. The local highway authority seem to have forgotten the fact that they've installed double yellow lines on the approach to this blind corner that 62 Kent Road South is situated on, evidencing the fact that the road cannot cope with the traffic and parking issues that it has already. I know of 3 separate head-on collisions on this bend alone, and it won't be long until someone else gets hurt or worse. The planning application details 3 full-time members of staff 24/7 at the property. That's 3 cars every day that need replacing by 3 other staff members. So there's 6 cars already. Also, that's an intense amount of supervision, is it not? Why do these 2 children in care need this level of supervision? Well, Woodbridge Family Centre have suggested they will take referrals from varied channels. Are they going to be unaccompanied children seeking asylum, separated children? Are they NEET? That's not in employment, education or training. What other support will they need? They'll need personal advisors, social workers, independent review officers, engagement with leaving care teams, youth justice teams, and based on Woodbridge's application, they'll likely have mental health staff and psychologists involved with their care, special educational needs staff, education welfare officer visits, and that's before we even talk about visits from family, friends, police, fire, and multi-agency safeguarding teams. Where will all of these cars park? Well, on the driveway, of course, that has a space for 2 cars. Do me a favour, they'll be on the bend, blocking the road and the paths. It's ludicrous when you think about it, isn't it? And on this point alone, the application should be refused. But if we also consider noise disturbance and safeguarding issues, Woodbridge correctly state that the children without parents are at higher risk of abuse, neglect, criminal and sexual exploitation and trafficking. That is undebatable. Why then are we considering housing these children 10 minutes away from Rounding Lane in Upton, the street with the highest crime rates in all of Northampton? Have you lost your minds? In fact, there's not a single mention to any safeguarding protocols in Woodbridge's planning applications at all. And in this postcode alone, we already have over 100 violent and sexual offences per month, high numbers of antisocial behaviour and shoplifting. The local shop no longer employs a security guard. It is that rife. Any increase in antisocial behaviour or criminal damage on this site as a result of the children in care will harm us as residents who are making a good go at life. Our maintenance charges are going to skyrocket. Who's going to cover it? West Northants Council, Woodbridge, the landlord? None of this increased crime discussion is hypothetical either, because 3 years' worth of data from Northamptonshire Youth Offending Service has been analysed by the Institute of Public Safety, Crime and Justice at the University of Northampton. Remember, these aren't sweeping statements. This is real data from Northants. Children in care are 7 times more likely to be prolific, i.e. have 5 or more previous convictions. They're 4 times more likely to display sexually inappropriate behaviour. They're 3 times more likely to display aggression towards others, over twice as likely to have behaviour that demonstrates an intent to cause serious harm, and nearly twice as likely to perceive themselves as having a criminal identity. These figures are from Northamptonshire's protocol for reducing the unnecessary criminalisation of children in care, a protocol developed to reduce the amount of police presence and intervention in these sorts of homes. So it's undeniable that police regularly attend incidents at these types of facilities. Clearly, there'll be noise disturbances due to whatever situations kicked off at the home and the presence of the police and safeguarding teams. In Mr. Moore's report, he suggests that the police can help deal with the parking issues. Perhaps these 2 spaces at the home will be for crisis placements, which can happen any time, day or night. And I'd imagine those kids aren't the sort to come quietly. Also, remember the intense supervision, the fact that there's 3 adults at this home 24/7. The children in care in this proposed dwelling are like to have deprivations of liberty orders, i.e. they can be restrained or they can be locked in the house. The poor family living in the adjoining semi-detached property, are going to hear all of this, and you know the chronic physical and cognitive illnesses that sleep deprivation creates, and that will harm them and any other resident in the vicinity over their entire life course. You know this. There are real safeguarding issues for the kids in care too. Children, by placing them in an area with high crime rates, and there are further safeguarding issues for the families and vulnerable people who live in the community already. You do realise there's a centre for adolescent mental health services just 50 metres up from this property, and another residential care home for children 50 metres in the other direction. A final point on loss of outlook. If this goes through, there'll be 3 residential settings for children in care within 100 metres of each other. We are a caring community, as evidenced by the fact we have women's refuges, 2 retirement villages, and pre-existing care facilities for young children. We do not doubt that these children need care homes, but is it in West Northants Council's master strategic plan to make St Crispin's entirely full of vulnerable people in care and with complex needs? Or will they actually stick to the rhetoric of their PR that reported the ambition of investing £20 million into more sustainable solutions away from profiteering institutions such as this? Final thoughts. Even if we could get past the idea that the Woodbridge Family Centre have not once bothered to consult with us as the neighbours, and we were willing to get over the fact that they have cut corners and operated unregulated homes in the past that significantly and detrimentally affected residents' lives, this is the wrong house for this type of facility on so many reasons. It's semi-detached, has a shared driveway, there's not enough parking at all on a blind corner, it's overly strained highway infrastructure already, the proximity to other care facilities for vulnerable people, and the high local crime rates. We care about the safety of these kids and the safety of local residents and our own families. You know this must be refused, and please don't tell us that one of the other 3,988 long-term empty homes in West Northants alone isn't a better fit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and at this point, any questions from the committee at all? No, thank you very much, Speaker. You may go.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
I now invite Tim Briggs, a local resident speaking in objection.
Hello. Sorry, this isn't my usual thing, so forgive me if I'm a bit nervous. So, Chair, members of the committees, my name's Tim. I'm here to speak on behalf of myself, my family, my close neighbour Simon and his family, and lots of other residents. Simon and his family moved from another property because of disturbances caused by another Woodbridge home. That home since has been shut down, and now they're facing the same issue again. I live immediately next door to 62 Kent Road South. It's a semi-detached property. We already hear noise from Woodbridge people that are in there. Previous neighbours have heard noise, and I can only imagine this is going to get worse with it being a 24-hour operation. So, yeah, I mean, I've today witnessed people from the Woodbridge facility outside the front of my house, swearing, smoking. This was in front of my 10-year-old daughter, who's dead against smoking like most 10-year-olds should be. Her nan's actually dying of lung cancer at the moment, asking who these people are, what they're doing outside the front of our house. And this hasn't even been approved yet. There's other things I know I'm not supposed to talk about, who profiting from this, the privacy, what it's going to do to our property values. But, you know, this is real. It's going to affect us and our families. This street also has clear binding restrictive covenants that says it must be kept as a private family home and not used for business purposes. What's the point of these covenants is if they can just be overridden? They were put there to protect families like ours. We're not against caring for children, but it must be in the right place. And it's just not in the right place. You know, my daughter has social anxiety. Some of her friends' parents have said if this gets approved, that her friends won't be allowed, you know, they won't want her friends to come around and play. So, you know, that's isolating her from her friends. And it just doesn't seem fair that she'll be, you know, subjected to that. As Luke's, you know, Luke said, lots of facts that back up what I'm saying. And this is a heartfelt plea from a father, 2 young daughters, you know, that doesn't want his family put at risk. So I urge you members of the committee, please don't do this to our families. Recognise that this is just the wrong place. You know, when we brought our homes, it's supposed to be a safe place where we can feel, you know, that we can live and not have to worry that my daughter can go in the garden. You know, our garden is overlooked, and feel that she can play and be happy without, you know, without having to worry. So yeah, sorry, thank you, and that's really what I wanted to get across to you guys.
Thank you very much.
Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the committee?
Please, Chair.
Councillor Beryl.
Do you know the numbers of the, you know, how many children we're talking here? It's only a 4-bedroom house, so is it?
Well, this is the thing, we've had no.
Tim could answer that one. Sorry, Luke could answer that one better. If you may. Yeah, is that okay? Sorry.
He's better at it than I am.
It's 3 children, as far as I'm aware.
3 children.
Yep.
It's actually 2 children.
Okay.
Yeah,
correct.
So it says two children and 3 members of staff, 24/7.
Sorry, is that again?
Two children and 3 members of staff, 24/7. There's the 2 members of staff will be the 24/7, and there's another manager on site working a full day in there as well.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yeah, and then if I can answer that as well, we've had no consultation from this company. They've not knocked on our doors. They've not given us any brochures, any literature, no reassurance, you know, not told us anything, you know, and that leads me to believe that it could be absolutely anything going.
And on the planning application, it says it's deliberately vague, as some of the points have been picked up on here on your agenda. Deliberately vague, deliberately misleading. We accept referrals from varied channels. So
no, I think we'll just leave it at that. Just the questions answered.
Fine.
Thank you. Any further questions? No. Okay. Thank you very much, Speaker.
Thank you.
I now invite Andrew Holt on behalf of Upton Parish Council. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. In any case, the parish council are operating or offered a speaking slot anyway, independent of the objectors. So, irrespective of who's here from the parish council, then that will stand regardless. Thank you.
So I'm Parish Councillor Pauline Goodley, and I'm from Upton Parish Council, and I'm here to represent the Parish Council and here also on behalf of the St Crispin's area residents. The parish council recognises the importance of providing vulnerable children with suitable homes. It also recognises that the child's local community is the right place for them to live. However, the word suitable raises many questions, as does the issue of the children's local links. First, the parish council would wish to have it demonstrated by WNC that there actually is a clear need in WNC for this kind of accommodation. There are already 2 houses with this type of planning permission standing empty very nearby. Second, will the children placed here actually be from Upton, or at least from the reasonably close vicinity? Third, what exactly is the nature of the provision? So as it's been pointed out, the supporting documents are sketchy and the specific needs of the children are not explained. In general, if the planning authority is minded to approve planning applications of this type, a robust management plan must be secured as a condition of approval. The plan should follow Ofsted best practices, and I refer you to the parish council's detailed written comments about the issues that it would wish the management plan to cover. However, the parish council has particular concerns about 62 Kent Road South. The property is situated on a tight plot with very limited off-road parking and almost non-existent curbside parking. The whole area is an absolute nightmare at school coming out time. It is semi-detached. It is on a sharp bend. The road is very busy and very narrow, leading to shops, a school, 2 retirement villages, and Northamptonshire's acute psychiatric hospital. It is on a main bus route, and sometimes I catch the bus. Sometimes the bus actually struggles to get round the corner. So thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I now invite any questions from the committee. No. Thank you very much. I now invite Katrina Bolton and Emily White on behalf of the applicant.
Hiya, thank you for having us this evening. My name's Katrina. So first of all, just to apologise, I haven't joined Woodbridge for a long period of time, so I can't apologise enough for the fact that nobody has reached out to the local residents. That isn't something that is positive. You know, normally we would want that community feel. Myself and Emily have got over 15 years of experience in care. As much as I completely appreciate that within local communities, we can identify, you know, that children in houses are allowed. This is a 4-bed home where we're proposing 2 children to move in. That would be on the learning disability spectrum. I can't say specifically that, you know, it will be an autistic child or a child with ADHD, because each referral is specific to the needs. You know, they do come through the local authorities. In relation to the comments around sort of local children being placed, again, that is specific on the need of a child. And I think it's a very closed culture as to say that, you know, if that child isn't placed from Upton, they wouldn't be welcome in Upton. They are children at the end of the day. And just like you've highlighted, there are lots of families in Upton, and we would actually like to bring that child into that field so that they have that experience. These children have gone from birth. They may have experienced some significant neglect. They've never had an adult that's cared for them. In the time I've worked in care, you know, we've supported children that have never been to the beach before and things. We aren't unexperienced. We are experienced team members. We don't expect there to be any staff members coming in without an MVQ level 3 qualification. There's bespoke training in place. We use high-end training as well. So any training that we do is all face-to-face to make sure that we haven't got untrained people in there. I do appreciate that there's been concerns around the noise. What I will say is, you know, I'm a mum with a child with additional needs and I'm in a semi-detached house, and at no point have I been told that I need to move or that I need to place my child somewhere else because of the noise levels.
No calling up, please.
I can appreciate that, you know, it is very different in things. Just to clarify as well, these children would have one adult with them at all times. So it's 2 adults that would be there. Generally, they would settle them to bed as normal, so they would go to school, hopefully. If they wouldn't, they would go off away from the home for school. You know, a home is a home and a school environment needs to be a school environment. So whether that would be tutoring at local library or something, we wouldn't be encouraging it at the home in itself either. And then it would be the manager, Emily, would be there Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So there wouldn't be 3 cars there all the time either. 3 of our drivers, 3 of our workers aren't drivers. We expect to have 1 house car for the 2 children, and then Emily's car would be on the drive. So in terms of, you know, cars being on the drive, we don't see that as a concern at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Carley.
Sorry, yeah, just very quickly, I just wanted to thank you very much for explaining that sort of we see the overall picture of that. I just wanted to ask as well, like, how did you go by on informing the residents in terms of what you're
So as I said at the start, I can only apologise for that I've only recently joined the organisation. So in terms of that starting process, we weren't aware of that element. Myself and Emily have visited the property, obviously since then, and we've been in and out and things, but that would be something that we would be definitely looking at doing sort of from today. You know, we would open the home for a coffee morning. That's generally what I've done previously, where we invite the local residents in, they can see what the house is all about, and sort of have that reassurance that, you know, yes, children can be children, and we don't expect it to be perfect every single day of the week, but we don't expect police presence to be there, to be honest. That's not what we want. We don't want these children traumatised by police coming in.
Any further questions from the committee? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, I will come back to the officers and ask them if there are any points that they'd like to come back on.
Just one point I would raise is it hasn't been mentioned as the applicant's apparent fallback position. Generally speaking, a lot of care homes don't require planning permission. You can, under the plan regulations, have 6 residents living together as a single family household without needing planning permission. In this case, the applicant is proposing 2 children and 3 staff, which is less than 6 people. And providing they're living together as a single family household, doing activities together, then a lot of cases plan permission is not required. So there is a fallback position. A lot of these care homes don't require plan permission.
Thank you. And at this point, obviously, we now move to the committee to debate the application. Or Councillor Smith.
Just apologies, I do want to come back on the debate section, but is there a section for questions to officers following the speakers, as there has been historically?
Yeah, the questions the officers were at the beginning.
Oh, right, it's just that historically, and apologies, I was aware that if something was brought up by one of the speakers that you could clarify with the officer or ask the officer about it, but
yeah, no,
happy if not.
Feel free to.
Just wondering if you can just clarify for us, because I suspect it isn't planning, which agency going forward, which council department or area would be responsible for looking at a management plan for the area or sort of licensing permissions for the property going forward?
My understanding that is that the best practice would not be to impose a bus management plan by condition, but that'd be governed by Ofsted.
Any further questions? Yeah.
No further questions, but I'd like to
Okay,
debate.
yep, feel free.
That's okay. I completely sympathise with the concerns raised by neighbours, and I can understand the anxiety that this sort of development can create. However, I think one of the guides for me, I find it important to remember, is that foster carers could very easily and do care for children with very acute needs without planning permission, that children, although businesses may run organisations like this, children are residents of Northampton as much as anybody else, including children with acute needs. And I think if there are any concerns regarding the way in which the property is managed, I think it will be picked up through Ofsted and through other channels. I don't think it's a material planning consideration that could be concerned. I think there does need to be a really positive dialogue, and I would hope to see that going forward, but I think it would be picked up within the council's community engagement departments and within Ofsted if there were concerns arising out of this. And I think from a planning perspective, and there is also a long-term plan about our aspirations for the kind of homes in which children live, but I recognise in the meanwhile the concern that there are not enough appropriate homes for children with acute needs. So I would be minded on the basis of that to approve it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Smith. Are there any further questions? Councillor Beryl.
Councillor Beryl, I think we almost need to get out of the mindset that we all instantly assume that vulnerable children are a nuisance. I think I'm open to conversation here, but I think we need to try and break away from that. Thank you.
Okay, Sharon.
Through you, Chair, just to assist everybody in planning legislation, what's in front of you today is the change of use from a residential dwelling house to a care home, not who's going to live there, how good or how bad the residents may be. It is solely for us as the local planning authority to determine whether we believe it's acceptable that this house in this location is changed to a care home, not the residents who are going to live at the care home, because that's an Ofsted, that's an Ofsted and other concerns rather than us in the planning regime. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Any further questions? No. Okay. So do we prepared to move to a proposal? Councillor Smith? You're proposing, and Councillor Cardy, you're seconding, yeah. Okay. And do you want to summarise on that?
Thank you, Chair. So in the absence of any other proposal, it's proposed by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Carley. The officer's recommendation for approval is approved. Over to you, Chair, to move the vote.
Okay, so we'll take a vote. All those in favour? And all those against? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carried. On to item 8, which is 22 Abington Grove, Northampton. I will now hand over to the case officer, Oliver Billing, to begin the presentation. Thank you.
To buy a bag or property, all on you, all on you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Ready? Good evening. This application is for the increase in occupancy from a 12-person house in multiple occupancy to a 14-person house in multiple occupancy, also known as a HIMO, at 22 Abington Grove in Northampton. And just to note, a late third-party representation has been received since publication of the officer's report, and this is summarised in the addendum. So the application site comprises a 3-storey plus lower ground floor end of terrace property located at the junction between Holly Road and Abington Grove, shown on the plans. The current permitted use is as a 12-bedroom HIMO and was being converted at the time of the case officer's visit on the 17th of March. To the rear of the property is a private amenity space with vehicular access from the rear alleyway. And this shows an aerial view of where the property is. So an application to increase the property from a 9-bed to a 12-bed house in multiple occupation was approved in December last year. And the approved scheme is shown on these slides. So this is the previously approved floor plan for the 12-bed scheme. This is the previously approved elevations. And this is the previously approved cycle and refuse storage. And that shows the 2 parking spaces that were proposed and approved, the cycle store and the refuse storage. So the current application seeks permission to increase the number of occupants from 12 to 14 through internal and external alterations. And when compared with the previous approval, the lower ground floor will remain the same. 1 new room is proposed on each of the ground and first floors. The second floor will have 1 less room, and a new 3rd floor is proposed with a new room. And new roof lights, a rear dormer and windows are also proposed, along with the demolition of the rear garages to provide 5 parking spaces. And they're the proposed floor plans. There's the proposed elevations, and you can see the rear dormer and the roof lights shown. These are these slides show the proposed front and rear light wells, and the only change with the light wells when compared with the previous approval are the floor to ceiling heights are slightly larger, and that's shown on these slides. And then this shows the new proposed cycle and refuse storage, and the number of car parking spaces has increased from 2 to 5 when compared with the previous approval, and the number of cycle stores has increased by 1. Alterations to the boundary wall to accommodate the pedestrian visibility space are also proposed, and they're just shown in the corner of the plan there. And these photos are from the case officer's site visit on the 17th of March 2025, and they show the works, as explained, are being undertaken. So the property currently has a permitted use as a HIMO, and therefore the principle of the use has been established. And with regard to principle 1 of the council's HIMO SPD, relating to area concentration, the use of the application property as a HIMO would equate to 4.17% concentration, which would not exceed the maximum threshold. And this is the concentration map that calculation is based off. So with regard to principle 2 of the SPD, provision of facilities and amenity, the property is of sufficient size, providing room sizes and facilities in accordance with the SPD. The location and details of refuse and recycling storage have also been provided. With regard to principle 3 of the SPD, which relates to flood risk, the application site is within flood zone 1, is at low risk of flooding. And these photos again show works that have been undertaken regarding the front and rear light wells. With regard to principle 4 of the SPD, which relates to parking local facilities, the proposed spaces will not meet the parking demand for the property as a whole. The property is within 400 metres of the closest bus stop, which provides regular services, and is also within 400 metres of the Kettering Road local centre. The proposed development is therefore accepted as meeting the criteria of principle 4 when the car parking standard cannot be met in full. And as shown on the plans earlier, secure cycle storage up to 15 cycles has been provided within the rear amenity space. And with regard to the access to the rear car parking spaces, appropriate visibility space have been conditioned, and it is not considered the proposed development would have an unacceptable impact on highway safety as a result of the use of this access. And again, these photos show the state of the garages and the rear of the property at the officer's site visit on the 17th of March 25. So the proposal involves the installation of a rear dormer, roof lights and an automatic opening smoke vent. The conservation officer has raised an objection with the roof lights and the vent. However, these additions are considered acceptable in terms of their design, and any limited visual harm will be outweighed by the benefits of providing room 14, which is on the new 3rd floor, with sufficient daylight, ventilation and outlook, meeting the requirements for fire safety. The loss of the garages is also considered to have a limited impact on the character and setting of the nearby conservation area. And the committee are reminded that the rear alleyway, this area here, nor the garages themselves form part of the conservation area, and therefore it's considered that their loss would not be a sufficient reason for refusal. And these photos show the internal works that were being undertaken during the case officer's visit. So the proposal is for residential use, and there's no evidence to suggest that the occupiers of a HIMO would create any more impact on amenity when compared with other residential occupiers in the area. The application site is within the buffer zone of the Upper Nene Valley Gravel Pit Special Protection Area, and in order to mitigate the impact of the additional occupants, financial contributions towards strategic access management and monitoring has been secured. Now move on to these photos, which were taken on the 30th of June 2025, whereby you can see that the garages at the rear have been demolished and the dormer has been completed or partly completed. And those photos show the same, again, the side elevation. And on balance, the proposed development is considered acceptable without having an undue adverse impact on highway safety, residential amenity or flood risk, would not result in an over-concentration of similar uses. And therefore, this application is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I now invite questions from the committee to the officers. Are there any questions? No. Okay, thank you very much. We will now move to public speaking in the following order. We have remotely, we have Councillor Bob Purser, which is a local ward member.
Thank you, Chair. I'm assuming that you can hear me. This property is located on one of the major arteries through the northern end of Abington and Phipsville ward, and a junction with a quiet residential road with a really strong sense of community. I've got two concerns with this application. One is the number of people in the house. I think it was even at 12, it was really, I was concerned about the quality of life for residents in this particular property. And a further 2 people really causes me concern just about the number of people rubbing up against each other. It's use of staircases, of hot water, of accessing the recycling and waste facilities. Then you need one person who's not as social as the others to really cause problems in a house like this. So I'm really concerned that this is overcrowding and therefore overdevelopment of this house, and it really impacts on the quality of life of people. I'm then concerned about, I understand Room 1 was approved previously, but I still think that's a far from ideal living environment. And I'm also concerned additionally about the room in the loft. Some of the roof space in this room is very limited, limited headspace. In terms of impact on the local community, 14 people coming and going from a property must have an impact on the local area. And then parking. Parking is a nightmare in Holly Road. It's a real concern that there are not sufficient parking spaces for all the residents who live there at the moment. So an additional 2 people, despite the additional parking spaces, has got to cause stress on the area. Then finally, I do think that the impact of the dormer on the conservation area is a significant issue. This is one of Northampton's prime, overlooking the racecourse, is really a prime area, and the dormer is going to have an impact because it will be seen from the other parts of the conservation area. So, Chair, I have real concerns and wish to object to this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Purser. Are there any questions from the committee to the Speaker? No. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor.
Thank you.
I now call Councillor Zoe Smith, who's also a local ward member.
Thank Thank you, Chair. So I would like to echo a lot of the concerns that Councillor Purser has already raised. The impact on the residential amenity for neighbours in particular is something that I would like to focus on, especially if this is a material consideration that the Planning Committee could choose to refuse this application. There is precedent of the Planning Inspectorate having upheld the view of the Planning Committee at appeal that a 6-person house in occupation in Wycliffe Road would result in too many comings and goings for neighbours. Therefore, a 14-person HMO at the end of a quiet street could have really significant, much farther reaching impact on the residential amenity of neighbours. In terms of the coming and going, 14 people all working different shift patterns, all working in different roles, different jobs, different shift patterns, coming and going at different times of the day is a significant disturbance to the road. I think it also needs to be taken into account that the highways have recognised how densely populated and overcrowded the parking in this area is. And in terms of the supposed sustainable location, a number of other HMOs in this area contain a large number of people who drive for commercial parcel delivery companies and park large vans outside of their property, and they're definitely not taking the parcels on the bus. So I think that's something that ought to be taken into account as well. And the other material consideration is the conservation area, as Councillor Purser has mentioned. And again, the Planning Inspectorate has historically upheld a number of the view of the Planning Committee in a number of the appeals where a conservation area has been cited. As Councillor Purser stated, this is a really key historical area of Northampton. It's a part of the Phipsville area. It's linked into that part of our history. The properties were built historically to create affordable accommodation for families who lived in the factories run by Pickering Phipps, and that is the history that this area preserves. And so preserving the nature and the quality of those houses is a really key part of that. So I feel that the two material considerations that the Planning Committee could robustly use to defend refusal of this application would be the impact of the residential amenity on the neighbours and the alterations to a home in the conservation area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Now invite the committee to ask any questions of the speaker. No? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so I now ask Oliver McLaughlin, agent for the applicants. Just press the button, yep.
It's already on. Hello. I'm not an agent for the applicant. I am the applicant. We're a company that focuses on good quality HMOs. Bear with me, I have some notes. Okay, so a couple of points raised in the last two speakers that I'd just like to address. So firstly, I mean, it's currently got planning for the 12, so the extra 2, it's not asking for a lot more. We've gone into the loft space. When we were doing the work for the 12-bed, I realised how much more space there is, and rather than there's a big demand for good quality room rentals in Northampton, and you could convert more properties into HMOs, but it's better, I think, if you can cleverly design existing HMOs to allow just a couple more people in them. There's no sort of over concentration or anything like that. We have a good range of rooms ranging from 7.5 square meters up to 25 square meters, with quite a few of them being over 15 square meters. So these are really, really, really good sized rooms. Also, each room has its own ensuite. I believe in when people live together, they need to kind of live together in harmony, and having their own toilets and things like that is a really good way of achieving that. So that's why every single room has its own ensuite. The kitchen is a really, really large kitchen, far exceeding the HMO requirements. It is 32 square meters. In regards to parking that's been raised, well, we're adding 2 more people and we're adding 3 more spaces. So I don't know how that's a problem. But typically speaking, not many tenants actually drive. We've got plenty of cycle storage, and there's loads of bus routes. You know, it's in, you know, a central area, a sustainable area. Right, see what other notes I've got. The bins will do a commercial pickup. So there won't be any sort of excess build-up. We manage our properties ourselves, so we don't entrust an agent or anything like that. We do it ourselves. We have a team of people.
Thank you. Your time's up. If you just want to wrap up your statement.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I now invite the committee to ask any questions of the speaker. Councillor Carley.
Thank you for that. And I just wanted to know, because you're just rounding up about the bins, because that's what I'm very eager to hear.
Okay.
In terms of your bins storage, or are the residents, are they going to put it out on a certain day that you're going to pick it up? You're going to be in charge of it, or we're not going to have bags or stacked up on the streets?
Yeah, so the residents are responsible for the bins in their own rooms. We don't have a service that will go into the rooms or anything like that. So they'll take the bins out of their rooms and they'll place it outside. It will be inside a bin, and then the bins get taken away. The bins in the communal areas, we have regular cleaners that will ensure that the property is kept clean and bins are taken out.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Frost.
Thank you. Yeah. How long have you owned the property?
Just over a year. Just over a year, or just less than a year?
And
about a year. About a year.
And when did you discover the extra space?
So we bought it as an existing 9-bed, just a bit of context into it. So we applied for the 12-bed about 6 months ago, and during the works, we didn't realise how because it's got a high pitch, so there's a lot more space. We've only put one room in there. The additional room is from internal reconfiguration, and that ends up the loft room ends up with 25 square meters. So really, really good.
So you discovered it sort of autumn last year, something like that, did you?
Sorry?
Is that when you discovered the space, in the autumn of last year?
Well, it's 5 months ago, something like that. It's one of those things where the work is underway, and you walk in and go, we could probably, you know, do something with this space. It seems a shame to waste the space, really. And if we can utilise it and have a good quality space, then I think it's right to do so.
All right, thank you.
Councillor Rainbird.
What would you say to the comments about the impact on the conservation area and the surrounding?
So it is outside the conservation area. The dormer is in keeping with the area. There is actually quite a lot of dormers around in the area anyway. It's got slate sides, so it's being done with care. It's not just you know, like plastic sheeting or anything like that. It's done in keeping with the area. It's not a huge dormer, you know, that's the whole width or anything like that. It's quite a respectable size, you know, for the area. The roof lights are conservation roof lights, so that's not that shouldn't be a problem. So yeah.
Any further questions from the committee? Councillor McMurty.
I'd just like to ask if there's anything else apart from the additional parking spaces you're doing to ensure that there's not going to be too many cars there and it's not going to cause an issue for local residents.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did a parking beat survey, which came up with, I think, 67 on-street parking spaces. I mean, I can say that whenever we've gone there, we haven't had an issue with parking on the road if needs be. So I don't, yeah, so the parking beat survey with the extra spaces, bearing in mind it's already got permission for 12 and 2 parking spaces. We're applying for an extra 2 and we're adding 3 parking spaces. So it's actually a better proposal than it was before in regards to parking.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further questions from the committee? No, okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Speaker. Okay, so at this point now, I will come back to the officers and ask if there are any points they wish to come back on.
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, so we now move to the committee to debate the application. Anyone wish to move to a proposal? Councillor Ringwood.
With everything being said, with it being moved to already approved for 12, and then now the application for 14, with the additional 3 extra parking spaces for only 2 more rooms / residents. I think it's an appropriate application for the area, and I'd like to go with the officer's recommendation for approval.
Okay, is there any seconders? Anyone wish? Okay, thank you, Councillor Clark. And you wish to summarise the proposal?
Yes, please, Chair. Thank you. It's proposed by Councillor Rainbird and seconded by Councillor Clark that the application be approved in accordance with the case officer's recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so we'll now move to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Okay. Motion. Sorry? Yes, please, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So that is carried 4 votes in favour with 2 votes against and 3 abstentions. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. We now move on to item 9, which is 20 Ringway, Briar Hill, Northampton. I will now hand over to the case officer, Anjana Jayan, to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So my application here is for a change of use from dwelling to children's care home for maximum of 3 children at 20 Ringway, Northampton. This is the location plan of the site. The site is a mid-terrace 3-bedroom property located to the west of Ringway Road. It's an predominantly residential area, and a communal car parking space is located to the north of the property, with sufficient space in the Ringway Road to accommodate on-street car parkings. And the site has good access to public transport with a bus stop around 50 meters from the site, and it has bus services in every 50 minutes to Northampton Town Centre. So it should be noted that the government's national strategy has stated that there is a national shortage for suitable homes for children in care, which has been reaffirmed by Minister of State of Housing and Planning, where government's commitment to supporting accommodations for looked after children is asked to be supported by planning system. So the proposal is for a children's care home for 3 children and 2 carers at one time on shift basis. so this is just the aerial view, just showing the communal car parking and the on-street car parking and a bus stop in the Ringway Road. And this is the floor plans. There are no major alterations. There's just a staff office added on in the dining space. And this is the property that's been converted into a children's care home. And the shift patterns are from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. and at night shifts are from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. So the scale of the property is considered appropriate for the use for 3 children and 2 adults coming over in shift basis and occasional visits from manager. And there were concerns raised on highways, highway safety and parking issues. So the concerns, if you can see that there's communal car parking space, and this shows the car parking space during midday and this during the evening hours, and the on-street car parking space during midday and this during the evening hours. And the existing 3-bedroom dwelling already requires 2 parking spaces, and the proposed use for per time, there will be just 2 stops in there with occasional visits of manager. It's considered that the communal car parking space and the on-street parking would be sufficient to accommodate the parking required even during the handover period for 1 hour during the morning and 1 hour at night. And there were additional concerns raised on antisocial behaviors, which will be addressed by Ofsted, and noise concerns were raised, and it is anticipated to be similar and comparable to a typical family house with 3 children. And it should be noted that environmental health officer have raised no concerns and highway officer has raised no concerns. So as such, the application is intended for an approval subject to conditions, and the condition will be that will be conditional also to restrict maximum of 3 children in this care home. So, thank you.
Thank you. I now invite the committee to ask any questions of the officers. Councillor Carley.
Sorry, it's probably my hearing or something, but you said 3 children and how many adults? Sorry.
2 carers at one time, and they're on shift basis, morning shift and a night shift.
Okay. And in terms of the parking, is it just luck that these spaces happen to be available, or is it actually available for you've got parking in front of the property that they're going to be using?
I've walked by those spaces quite a few times, but I've seen on-street car parking space quite frequent during.
And lastly, And lastly, are the residents being made aware of about the care home?
I'm not quite sure on consultations from council have been sent across to the neighbours. So yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions? Councillor Murtry.
So at some points, am I correct in thinking that there's going to be 5 cars there, because the two people who were there, and then the handover shift, and then the manager sometimes as well?
Yes, maybe at some point.
Okay. I'd just like to ask also about the need for the development. Is there a significant need in this area?
There is actually a national shortage, as stated earlier, for children's care home within such environments, showing a family environment having children's care home. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? No. Okay. Thank you. At this point now we move on to the public speaking. There are no registered public speakers, but we do have the councillor who called in the application.
Sorry. Thank you, Chair. I'm here this evening on behalf of residents to respectfully oppose the proposal to convert one of our community's few remaining affordable homes into a children's home. Let me start by saying that I deeply respect the need for care facilities for children in difficult situations. No one here is against helping vulnerable children. But we also cannot ignore the broader impact this conversion would have on our community, especially for low-income families who are already struggling to find affordable, stable housing. In the middle of a housing crisis, when so many are being priced or displaced, every single affordable home matters. Replacing it with a children's home, however well-intentioned, means one less place for a local family to live in. My ward is a very tight-knit community. Families live in the area for generations, and low-income families need the support of the wider family around them. We've already dealt in my ward with hundreds of lost affordable houses due to thousands of university students relocating to our area from Kingsthorpe, and because many people cannot afford a flat or house, so need to rent a room in a house in multiple occupation. And we've already lost affordable homes to become children's homes in Briar Hill and Far Cotton, which is the most deprived part of the ward. Turning a single family home into a care facility changes the character and function of the area. These kinds of changes should be carefully planned, not rushed through at the cost of residents who are already here. We need a strategic plan to determine how we will address this situation going forward. We are not against children's home. We're saying that solutions for vulnerable children should not come at the expense of equally vulnerable families. Houses in Briar Hill are around 240,000. Now, they're ideal for the first-time buyers. Why make the problem even worse for our residents? Let's preserve affordable housing and provide proper care for children in places designed for both. Please let us keep what affordable homes we have left. And I just want to mention about parking that we've already got...
Okay, Councillor, if you could wrap up your statement, please. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to ask any members of the committee if they would like any questions for the councillor. No. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, at this point now, I'd like to ask the officers if there are any points they wish to come back on.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, I now move to the committee to debate the application. Councillor Smith.
I feel that in terms of the planning case and the planning legislation, the case has been met, and I would propose acceptance of the officer's recommendation.
Okay, any seconders to that one? Councillor Carley and Councillor Tobin.
Councillor Smith, I agree that there needs to be a plan put in place strategically on the bigger picture. But yes, I agree with you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Obviously, the points raised with regards to planning policy, just for the benefit of members, the correct forum to raise that would be Planning Policy Committee through the administration and through that committee as well. So that's just for your benefit and information as to how to progress that and carry that forward outside of this forum. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So we have a proposer and seconder. I don't know if you wish to summarise the proposal.
Thank you, Chair. It was proposed by Councillor Smith, and could I just confirm, was it seconded by Councillor Tarbin or Councillor Carley? Who wants to? Okay, Councillor Carley. that the application be approved in accordance with the officer's recommendation, and I'll move to you, Chair, for the vote. Thank you.
Okay, and at which point now we will move to the vote, and all those in favour? Okay, all those against? No, okay, abstentions? No, okay, thank you very much. Motion is carried. We now move on to item 10, the Poplars Farm, the Green, Scaldwell. I will now hand over to the case officer, Rebecca Bates, to begin the presentation.
Good evening. This presentation will largely summarise the contents of the officer's report with regard to the proposed conversions and construction of a new dwelling to create 3 dwelling houses at Poplar's Farm at Scaldwell. So you can see this is the site location plan. The application site comprises a farmyard and dwelling encased within a stone boundary wall located adjacent to the green in Scaldwell village. The application site is surrounded by residential properties and their associated gardens in all directions, with the Grade 2 star listed Church of St Peter's and St Paul's and community allotments to the northwest and northeast. Access is provided via a private access extending from Old Road and the green to the farmyard. This site shows the site plan for the proposed development. And these slides show the proposed plots. So plot A, plot B, and plot C. So this is plot A, this is plot B, and this is plot C. The existing site consists of a farmyard with 2 barns, one built in brick and the other in stone. This application seeks permission for conversion and alteration to these barns to provide 2 dwelling houses, with a new dwelling also being proposed centrally within the plot. The existing vehicular access will be retained and used to provide access with off-road parking provided for each dwelling along with landscaping. A structural report has confirmed the 2 existing barns are capable of such conversions. This slide shows the proposed sections within the site, the land levels, and the existing boundary wall, which is to be retained. The key issues arising from the application include the principle of the development, highway safety, impact upon the conservation area, and impact upon residential amenity. The design and appearance of the proposed barn conversions and new dwelling are considered acceptable and are in keeping with the surroundings and neighbouring dwelling houses. The proposed development would not encroach onto the wider area of the village due to the existing boundary wall, and the plot is considered large enough to accommodate the additional dwellings. A landscaping condition has been recommended to ensure adequate landscaping is provided that would enhance the site and soften the proposal in keeping with the green nature of the green and this immediate area of the village. With regard to neighbouring amenity, it is not considered that the proposal would result in any overshadowing, loss of light, overbearing or loss of privacy due to careful design considerations. The existing boundary wall will remain surrounding the site, which has been deemed structurally sound, reducing the impact upon West End and the community allotment space. The existing access will be retained to provide access to the dwelling houses, and sufficient off-road parking facilities have been provided in line with the local highway authority standing advice and guidance. A materials condition has been recommended to ensure all materials for the external works are submitted to the local planning authority for approval to ensure the materials chosen are complementary to the conservation area and the Grade 2 listed church. This application has been subject to intensive discussions with heritage officers, and various amendments and alterations have been made and additional information has been provided, and it has been concluded the proposed development will not adversely impact the setting or significance of the conservation area or surrounding heritage assets. It is concluded that the proposed development is sympathetically designed, does not undermine the character of the local area and its landscape setting, does not result in an unacceptable impact on highway safety, and has no harm to neighbouring amenity. It is also concluded the existing surrounding heritage assets will not be adversely impacted as a result of the proposed development. As such, it is acceptable on planning terms and should be approved accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. I now invite any questions from the committee to the officers. Any questions at all? No, okay, so we'll now move on to public speaking in the following order. Martin Kelly on behalf of Scaldwell Parish Council. The red light should be on, you can be able to speak. It's off, you need to press it on again, sorry.
Chair, members of the committee, good evening. My name is Martin Kelly and I'm here today as a member of the Scaldwell Parish Council with my fellow councillor Dora Masterson-Jones. We're here to express a strong objection to the proposed development. We believe this planning application represents a significant overdevelopment of the site and will cause substantial harm to key views around the green and the wider landscape. It is vitally important to note that the site is elevated. The proposed houses would dominate and overlook neighbouring properties. Their massing, scale and style are out of keeping with the traditional character of the village. Positioned prominently high on the site, they would seriously damage the setting and character of the green. This development also impacts two listed buildings nearby. Plot A would dominate the setting of the old thatch, and Plot B sits directly within the main view from home farmhouse. This would cause unacceptable harm to those heritage assets. Overspill parking is already a challenge around the green. This development provides insufficient on-site parking and does not allow adequate parking for the two existing houses already on the site. Removing Plot B would solve this problem. Plots A and C lie within the conservation area, yet the proposal neither preserves nor enhances the character of the area. This development also conflicts with several key national and local planning policies. Under the National Planning Policy Framework and in particular the West Northamptonshire Local Plan, Policy BN5 requires protection of heritage assets. Policy R1 insists that development of rural areas must respect existing settlement character. And Policy ENV10 demands development reflect local form, materials and layout. The Scaldwell Village Design Statement, a supplementary planning document, also carries weight. The proposed design conflicts directly with principles, especially regarding scale, spacing and materials. Scaldwell is a beautiful village. The green is the focal point of our village and any development here must be approached with the utmost care. The green is more than just open land, it is the heart of our community. We are temporary custodians of this building and landscape that surround us, and we have a moral imperative to protect them for future generations. This is an impassioned plea to the committee to preserve the green and the landscape around Scaldwell for those future generations. It is for these reasons I respectfully ask the committee to refuse this application in its present form. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I now ask the committee if there are any questions they would like to ask the speaker. No? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Speaker. I now ask Sean Bennett, agent for the applicant, to speak.
Thank you, councillors. Firstly, I just want to thank the council's officers for their input and kind attention in getting to this point. The application seeks to address a land use conflict between the working farmyard and the surrounding residences in terms of noise and disturbances originating from the farm, which frequently see early activity and late activity that could impact on neighbours' residential amenity. The application seeks to provide a thoughtful, low-dense solution in place of an untidy site that exerts visual harm. The application makes use of existing rural buildings, 2 of them in fact, and with a rural vernacular, low-profile design approach that respects the conservation area and surrounding heritage assets with no objections from the heritage officers. The application has had regard to neighbours with no overlooking or overshadowing issues, assisted by the drop in land levels. There are no technical issues technical issues associated with the application. And the application provides 3 new homes in a plan-led way within the village without putting pressure in the undeveloped rural areas around the village. Many thanks.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I'm just wondering what discussions have been had, given that the WNC conservation, the council conservation team have raised concerns about the design and the outlook and the impact on the conservation area and have requested the removal of plot B. So I was just wondering what discussions have been had around that in terms of achieving what's been talked about, but addressing the conservation area concerns.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, and initially the building at the centre of the site, the new build building, was judged to be over-dominant in terms of the impact on Poplar's farmhouse. To overcome that matter, the central building was reduced significantly, and you now see a much lower property than was originally proposed in terms of scale, and also has a more traditional rural character with the dormers in effect that are off the wall plates, which is a traditional character you see in the village and in the rural area. That, together with the land levels drawings that we provided with the cross section across the site, shows that that building in particular sits lower than Poplar's farm, and also significantly lower than Poplar's court as well, which is helpful in terms of understanding impacts on neighbours.
Councillor Frost.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking this evening. You explained that you're motivated by improving the visual amenity and fixing, I can't remember the exact words used, but fixing a current problem, a disconnect, if you like, between what's there and what, in your opinion, should be there, and stopping the annoying noise of the tractors, whatever it was. So, with that in mind, can you talk about the extent to which you've engaged with the local community? Because the bit that I'm finding confusing is that you're doing the right thing for the area, but no consultees are currently in support of the application. How has it gone? What with your the briefings or consulting that you've done?
In terms of engagement prior to the submission, none were made with the local community. As the application has progressed, and particularly with respect to the parish council comments, and also in respect to some of the neighbours' concerns, that new building towards the centre of site has been reduced significantly. There are no upper floor openings facing towards Poplar's Court. So during the application process, it's felt that those objections have been overcome to such a level that there are no planning objections any longer.
Okay. Any further questions? No. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. You may return to your seat. Thank you. Okay. So at this point now, I'll come back to the officers, and if there's any points they'd like to come back on.
No, thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. We now move to the committee to debate the application. Councillor Frost.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'll kick it off. The local plan, I remember it being approved final days at DDC. Other villages, policy RA3, other villages are designed to protect the, frankly, the most the prettiest villages, should we say, in West Northants, and there are policies in place to protect those villages. And I've got to say, I'm surprised it's got this far. You've seen the misgivings of the Heritage Officer, I presume is Rachel Booth. Highways have got their own concerns. I know everyone has to make a few quid, and I have sympathy with the last person that spoke in that regard. But this is against so many rules I think we'd have no problem defending a refusal at appeal. What does the rest of the committee think?
Councillor Smith.
Thank you. I echo Councillor Frost's concerns regarding most particularly the conservation area impact. I appreciate what was said in terms of a number of alterations being made, but the end comments from the conservation area don't end comfortably. They don't end in terms of endorsing it or feeling reassured that it does address those concerns. They acknowledge that to some extent it's less bad than it was, but they still raise concerns about the impact. They're still worried about the impact on the existing buildings and what's happened in terms of that. So I would echo that in terms of impact on a conservation area, it hasn't been met, and it's something we should consider giving weight to.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate from the committee? Okay, do the officers wish to add anything to the comments made?
Yeah, I mean, the application and any planning application is a case of assessing benefits and impacts on surroundings. And in this particular case, the site has been the subject of numerous iterations in order to address the concerns of the conservation officer. Correct, they haven't entirely overcome those, but nor has the conservation officer identified less than substantial harm. She has indicated some comments with regard to how it would impact in the conservation area. As members, you've got to, and as officers, yes, we acknowledge there's a limited harm in terms of the conservation, driven primarily because of the new build unit, not by the two conversions. But that harm is outweighed by the benefits of new dwellings, relatively modest dwellings within the village itself to help deliver further housing. So in that sense, we as officers are comfortable with the recommendation to committee. In overturning that advice, clearly members will have to have regard to weigh the benefits of housing against the harm, which at this stage is very much at the lower end of less than substantial. Thanks, Chairman.
Okay, any further questions or comments from anybody? Okay, anyone wish to make any proposals? Councillor Frost.
Propose going against, or happy to propose refusing the application. I'm looking at policy I referred to earlier. If I may, this application has to protect the form, character and setting of the village and areas of historic or environmental importance, including those identified in conservation area appraisals and village design statements, and protect the immunity of its existing residents. It just doesn't. So I find it very easy to refuse and propose a refusal.
Okay, Councillor Carley.
Maybe we can defer it and come back to it. I don't know, until the issues are being looked at and being met appropriately.
Okay. Councillor Tarbin.
Personally, I don't think we need to defer it. I'd be very happy to second Councillor Frost's proposal.
Okay. Please, yes.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Councillor Frost, to summarise, I need to obviously capture some of the policy elements before we move to a vote. So we've obviously got policies BN5, R1, RA3 and ENV10. So could I just clarify then that your proposal would be to refuse the application on the basis of those policies due to the scale, size and massing of the development and impact on the conservation area and the form, character and setting of the village in order to protect the residential amenity of the surrounding properties?
Yes, but before I do so, with deference to our esteemed colleague over there, is there anything that we may have missed that you can help advise?
Again, it's for you, Chairman, to come up with the reasons.
Sure.
To be blunt, I'm not clear on precisely what the conflict of policy is. I mean, I've heard residential immunity, but I haven't heard by what reasons. What is it about the development or parts of the development and impact on residential community, for example. I have not heard what it is about the development in terms of design, appearance, and what impact that has in terms of its harm on the conservation area and in terms of what parts of the policy it conflicts with. And I've not heard a discussion over the any acknowledgement of the benefits of the scheme in terms of delivering housing. So again, we as officers have taken a long time in negotiating this scheme. We are aware that there's an impact, but that impact has to be balanced against the acknowledged benefits in terms of delivering housing. And I think members, if they are going against officers' advice, need to be clear about what those impacts are and precise in terms of identifying what it is about the development that actually causes that harm both to residential amenity and to the character and appearance of the conservation area. Thanks, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Frost, any
Yeah, I'll
further?
just respond to that. I think the reasons are given by the heritage officer, and I'm not aware of a housing shortage. So I stand by what I said. I think there's ample grounds for refusing this, and we've learned some of the. Sorry, Richard outlined some of the policies there. Through you, Chair, Eamon, if you think this committee's about to make a huge blunder and that we're about to be, beaten up at a future appeal, then let's learn more. But yeah, I'm happy to stand by that. And the comments of Rachel's, I think, are pretty all-encompassing.
Okay. Any further comments from Councillor Beryl?
Please, Councillor Barrow, I would like to second Councillor Kelly's vote, beg your pardon, opinion to defer. I think it needs a bit more thought behind the process.
Okay. Any?
If I may, Chairman, I mean, again, members are new to committee, members are also new to the area. If it helps, you could defer for a site visit if members felt the need to do that and see for themselves.
Okay. So you prefer to have a site visit, yes?
Yes, please, Chair.
Yep. Okay. Yes, please, yeah.
So obviously Councillor Frost has a proposal that is obviously proposed and seconded. We obviously still need to iron out the policy elements of that before that goes to a vote. But putting that to you, Councillor Frost, as someone who has proposed an alternative course of action, would you be happy to defer for a site visit? Because some of the comments obviously we've received from the speakers and some of the policy elements reference the size, scale and form of the development. Do you feel it would benefit this committee to see this site prior to further consideration of this application?
Can I give a sort of a tangential answer? In terms of procedure, I'd be happy to, I think you're supposed to take a vote because this came first, and then do a vote on the site visit. To sort of answer your question, I'd be happy to flip it around and to have the vote on the site visit if my seconder would agree to that.
If you obviously have the option to withdraw your proposal entirely and then invite an alternative, which obviously we have, which is the site visit. So it is up to you.
And if I did, I'm not prevented from reintroducing it.
Correct.
Then I'll withdraw.
Okay, thank you. And we have an alternative proposal for a site visit from Councillor Beryl. Is there a seconder for that?
There's a seconder, Councillor Carley.
Okay, over to you, Chair, for a
Okay,
vote.
thank you very much. And we'll put this to a vote. So all those in favour of Councillor Beryl's proposal?
7.
All those against?
None.
Abstentions?
2.
Okay, motion carried. We now move on to item 11, Steen Grounds Farm, Hinton Road, Steen. I will now hand over to Nathan Loud on behalf of the case officer to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. The application relates to Steen Ground Farm, which is a detached dwelling within the grounds of Steen Farm. The proposal seeks various minor extensions and alterations to the existing dwelling. The application is before committee as the application has been made by a WNC councillor. This is just a photo of the existing front elevation. So in terms of what's proposing, as you can see on the left-hand side of the slide presentation, you have existing, and then on the right you have what's proposed. So obviously you can clearly see here that they are seeking to demolish the existing conservatory at the side and replacing it with a more modern conservatory. Again, you can see this is the rear elevation of the proposed, so they're seeking to extend this existing extension to the dwelling, and also incorporating what is an existing garden stall into the proposal. Again, this is side elevation showing the existing conservatory and what it's being replaced by. And again, this is the other side elevation. These are just some floor plans showing the existing ground floors and first floor. And this is the proposed ground and first floor. So no objections or comments have been made on the proposal, and the recommendation is for approval as set out within the agenda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I now invite any questions from the committee to the officers. Are there any questions? No? Okay, thank you very much. We now move on to public speaking. There are no registered speakers. So I think we just then move on to conclusion of anything from the officers that want to come back on? No? Nothing further? In which case we now move to the committee to debate the item. Councillor Carley.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So basically, from how it stands, I mean, you know, there's no sort of arguments. I mean, it's just a demolition and an extension for what it was from before. So I'm happy to go with the recommendation and for proposal as well.
Okay, and Councillor Smith.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay, Councillor Tarburn, you had your hand up as well, yes?
I did, but it would just be echoing
what
what Councillor Kelly said.
Thank you. And Councillor Rainbird.
Yeah, same thing.
Okay. Okay, so at this point now, then we obviously had a proposal and a second. Do you wish to summarise?
Thank you, Chair. So it's proposed by Councillor Carley and seconded by Councillor Smith that the application be approved in accordance with the case officer's recommendation.
Okay, and now we move to a vote. So all those in favour? It's unanimous. Yep. Okay. Motion carried. Yep. Okay, so I'll give you the item 12, the urgent business.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to give the committee a verbal update on upcoming business for the committee, and you will have all received the email I sent around yesterday advising that it's proposed to hold an additional meeting of this committee on Thursday, the 24th of July. The purpose of that additional meeting is to deal with some of the matters that were deferred at June's meeting, namely Kilsby and I believe Middleton Cheney, but I will allow officers to correct me if that's not ready. And there'll be an additional item for an eco house in the Campion ward as well that will come to that committee. The purpose of that additional meeting is to prevent the August and September agendas from becoming overloaded and experiencing a similarly large agenda that we had last month. The August meeting currently looks like it's a Northampton heavy agenda, so we'll hold that meeting in Northampton. And the September meeting looks like it will be a South heavy agenda, and we will hold that meeting here. But is everybody okay with the principle of holding an additional meeting on Thursday, the 24th of July? And the next issue with that is start time. Obviously, we have a number of matters that we need to determine that were complex at the previous meeting. Do people wish to start earlier or at 6 p.m? And I'll throw that out there for opinions on that.
I think it's important in terms of, I mean, there was an item previously about ensuring meetings started at 6, so I appreciate the length of time, but I would it's not just about when councillors are available, it's about when members of the public are most likely to be able to come and express their views if they wish to, particularly given some of the items were complex. There may be a number of public speakers, and as much as I don't want to be here really late, I think in terms of allowing to ensure that members of the public are able to speak, we ought to at least consider that aspect in our deliberations, and certainly not start perhaps quite as early as 4, which means that most people who work conventional working hours may not be able to attend.
Did you want to put a 6 p.m. start time to the vote?
I do, yep. If we put it to the vote, then obviously for a 6 p.m. start time. So all those in favour of a 6 p.m. start time? Sorry, yeah.
The previous one, coming out somewhere, had around 10 or more.
9.
No, okay, 9. I mean, is it reasonable or normal or 6?
We can do, yeah. I think it's more about the circumstances of the last month's one, but I'll let that.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. So June's agenda was obviously a toxic cocktail of 2 meetings moving into 1. Obviously, we had a North and South Planning Committee, and there was no meeting in May either. So we essentially had 4 months worth of business rolled into 1 meeting. It's not envisaged that that situation will be repeated, and obviously the purpose of holding an additional meeting in July is a preventative measure to stop that occurring in August and September as well. So if you wanted to put 6 p.m. back to the vote, Chair, just so we have a clear indication from committee, we'll proceed on that basis.
Just make sure there's any further questions from anybody before we put it to the vote. Okay, so all those in favour of the 6 p.m. start? It's unanimous. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, in that case, I'll send everybody an Outlook invite. We'll start at 6 p.m. on the 24th of July to determine the Kilsby and Middleton Sheeny matters. There is the small issue of the site visit. They were both deferred for a committee site visit. Ordinarily, the site visits would take place on the Tuesday prior to the committee. Is everybody happy with that? I know some of you work during the day, Councillor.
I was about to say, due to my work commitments, I'm always in London on Tuesday, so that would be a no-go every time for me, unfortunately.
Okay. Anybody else?
Just to echo that point, and it is perhaps something that needs to be discussed in a separate venue, but can I flag up on the basis of that the concept of some recordings or virtual site visits, because I will face the same dilemma both in terms of transport, childcare and work in being able to attend some of the daytime site visits, but I completely recognise the importance and validity of those. So if it's something that some minds could be put to other ways that we could achieve what's quite an important thing.
I think if we, through you, Chair, if I may,
yep.
If we can capture some material such as photographs at the site visit and circulate those to committee, would that, obviously it can't resolve all of those concerns, but would that be sufficient?
Yeah, I think we don't get quite the same detail in the committee meetings usually, and that may be also appropriate in terms of in some occasions people's homes being very publicly broadcast, but I think as committee members it would be useful and valid to do that.
Again, through you, Chairman, there's nothing to stop members from visiting the site during the application process at any time at their convenience in order to familiarise themselves with the context of the proposal and the context of the site and surroundings. The reason for site visits is where it's been to this forum, members are unable to come to a determination and defer for a site visit, but as part of the application process, there's nothing stopping members informing themselves of the site and its surroundings.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Beryl.
As I'm a substitute and I'm the one that called it for the site visit, I would like to be present at that site visit for Steen Grounds Farm.
Yep.
So how does it work with DS? Is that okay?
The site visit, through you, Chair, sorry. The site visit was for the Poplars Farm, Scaldwell.
Yeah, sorry,
not Steen Grounds Farm. You're more than welcome to attend the site visit as a councillor, and you are a member of the committee that has approved a resolution for a site visit, so you'd be more than welcome to go along to that.
And to sit on the next committee regarding that case.
If there is a requirement for a substitute from your political group, then that is something that you would be able to sit on, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Okay. All